In today's episode of the Cannon Podcast, join us as we break down Martin Ødegaard's new role, analyse the evolution of Takehiro Tomiyasu, discuss the potential signing of João Palhinha, and debate if Arsenal have a better defence than Man City.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. Today it's just me and Alex. George unfortunately can't make it, but Alex, we have to break down a lovely victory against Wolves. Now I know it was survival towards the end. It was a bit difficult, but we need to talk about the performance of the captain Martin Ødegaard. He's back, isn't he? A lovely goal, a goal in the midweek and in the Champions League as well. Dropping a little bit deeper, talk to me about Martin Ødegaard's slight adaptation and almost new role under Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, I think we've seen this coming for a little while. I think towards the beginning of the season we saw Ødegaard flipping into a slightly different role, and it's taken some adjusting. I think sometimes when players move into a new role, we're not provided like an update as fans, are we? We're not like given like a list in our programs going, here's Martin Ødegaard's going to be slightly different. So we have to maybe we should. That would probably help a lot of the narratives around the club.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, things don't get announced, so it takes time, especially when it's subtle. And I think we've seen from people who are interested in that kind of stuff in his heat maps and all that stuff that he's slightly changing roles, and I think he's just getting used to it. I think, as George might put it, he's getting more second phase. What do you say? Second phase central space or whatever.
Second phase central space.
Something like that.
If you can't do his accent, then I don't think anyone can.
Yeah, that's true. I'm struggling today. But he's being asked to do more things further down the pitch in less technical terms, in terms of receiving off the first line, in terms of taking it. I mean, I think there's been some pictures going around of sort of Ødegaard receiving it off the centre backs and stuff a lot more commonly. And yeah, it's I think it's exciting because I think Ødegaard has the potential to do that. He's not someone who, I think when we signed him, because of the line through his name, and I think we signed him literally in the same window that Ozil left, there maybe felt like there was going to be, that sort of creative number 10, but that position doesn't really exist in the same way as it did maybe 5-10 years ago. Yeah. He is an 8. He's a midfielder, so then a midfielder can be asked to do different things. And I think people still maybe have that perception in their mind. So yeah, look, it's nice. I think it gives him more space to work. I think it progresses as well. I think he's a very intelligent player, so you want your intelligent players maybe constructing build up as well. Does it take away from his attacking potential and his ability to make things happen in the final third? Probably, but equally scored at the weekend. And I think it's about knowing when to be there, when to arrive. Standing there waiting for something to happen isn't necessarily useful for such an intelligent player.
Yeah, you have to ghost into space. And I forget, if anyone that's played football, we're all professional footballers when we're playing Sunday League. But it's about a little bit of movement.
When we played in the Premier League, Bhavs, those
were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah.
But look, I think that Ødegaard goal though was very interesting though. We're starting to call it now the ozone. It's that space, edge of the box arrival. We've seen it this year against Man United, last year against Chelsea. His first ever goal for Arsenal in the Premier League against Spurs. What do you think that means? Like, in terms of, is that just a specific Martin Ødegaard goal where he is timed that like 10,000 times?
Well, I think it's a number of things. It's practice. It's the physical profile in terms of what he feels comfortable doing, shooting across his body on his left foot, which makes it a right, sort of that right, just to the right of the D and forward into the box. Is about right. Look, also it's intelligence, and we can't disconnect those two things. He is able to drop deep and understand when to do that. And he's also able to arrive and know when to do that in the final third, and that's a kind of nebulous concept until you start going, okay, when is the right time to arrive? Okay, it's looking at the situation. It's going, the wing is over there, that wing is there, those defenders are doing that. Is he likely to beat them? Yes or no? And once he does beat them, how do I time my arrival? And there's a lot of thinking and a lot of practice that goes into it. So it's not just a case of happening to be there. I think specifically on that Ødegaard goal, that was such a coach's goal. There's a reason that Jesus knows exactly where Zinchenko's going, and there's a reason that Zinchenko can first time it straight into Ødegaard, is because they've done that hundreds of times. In fact, last season it was more common you'd see the 2 in the pocket, the 9 and the 2 wingers. So you always knew there was 2 in the pocket and someone at the back post, which is why you saw a lot of goals from Saka to Martinelli and Martinelli to Saka. It's not happening as much this season, but I think we still know that there is a shape when we arrive in the box, and a lot of that is down to Ødegaard's intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, Ødegaard now has 5 goals and assists in the league this season, and there's a lot of talk about him not being that creator, as you said, like a Mesut Ozil, but we've kind of got that on the right hand side with Bukayo Saka, and I think Ødegaard's role is, we see a lot of praise for Dominic Szoboszlai, who's I think got one goal all season, and that's about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's a very good player. So I think it's about not just the goal and assist for you to be a good player and to be a number 8. I think what we're seeing is Ødegaard play like an 8 again. And not more of a
Yep.
number 10 that was, secondary striker, edge of the box trying to shoot. He can still shoot, but he's more of the player to get the ball, get a feel of the ball, make things happen.
Yeah, yeah. Look, creation can look many different ways. If you go back to those kind of first Pep teams, there were a lot about cutbacks. In fact, even Arteta, so the 21-22 was a lot about getting the ball to the byline and getting it back into the box. But it's different, and you have different spaces to work in. When you realise, okay, here's our spaces. We're getting space on the edge of the box now. Okay, let's try some half space crosses. This is what we've been talking about, isn't it? It's some of my frustrations on with Arteta's comments, I think, on our last episode, where there's never. You may be blocked on. No team is able to block you doing everything. If they're sat in a low block, that means you've got some space on the edge of the box. If they're sat really high, that means you've got space in behind. If they're sat to the side, there's always going to be spaces to exploit. It's just about how you use them and being willing to adapt and change. And I think that's been one of our struggles. But yeah, just briefly on Ødegaard, I think it's important to recognise that, especially at the beginning of the season, there was a kind of a sense that, Ødegaard's shooting too much and he's not getting to the same positions. Players, clearly there has been an adaptation. It's important to go back and look at that and then also look forward and think now at players that we think, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? It's often because they're being asked to do something slightly different, slightly out of the comfort zone. And actually, I remember, I think it was about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, Arteta said, what we're doing now on the training ground with Ødegaard will show in the game in 6 months' time. So, we've got to try and contextualize these things and remember and not have such short memories.
It felt like in this game we were maneuvering the block very well. It was sometimes back, sometimes forwards. It was like we were moving them constantly. And I think that's
sometimes
what fans
maybe
like.
Back, sometimes maybe forward.
I mean, that's the whole point. Is I think fans be waiting for that. Is that we know we can play this type of football where we can kind of, we're trying. And in other games where we kind of just pass around the back, it felt like we're kind of just waiting for a moment. In this game, we were creating those moments. And I think Ødegaard dropping a little bit deeper and getting the feel for the ball there's an opportunity now for Arsenal to, use more of a number 10 profile. Now, of course, in this game, it was Trossard, who could have easily scored, by the way. And I think that's the idea now, is to have that Trossard, Havertz profile, who is very good at ghosting in the spaces and actually a better finisher than Ødegaard naturally. And I think that's what we're going to see now. We're going to see more trademark things like, this is the trademark Ødegaard goal. You got the trademark Saka across to the far post. Now you're going to get soon the trademark Havertz goal at that far post. It feels like things are starting to click going forwards, but defensively, there is a player that for me actually has had a surprise impact going forwards. Takahiro Tomiyasu. So we need to talk about him. The movement in the final third, Alex, is pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's tucking in really well. I think consistently he was sat just on the edge of the box, basically waiting for that wall pass inside. And I think the Saka goal basically comes from that. But he does it a number of times over the game. Look, Mikel said it himself. Tomiyasu has a lot of room to develop in that phase. I think his mobility has often been a problem, but now we're seeing the intelligence that Tomiyasu shows in the defensive third really showing in the final third, knowing when to overlap. It's not just overlap every single time. It's going, actually, okay, there's a space here, now I'm going to move into it, or maybe I've recognized a situation where it's a little bit crowded in the box. Can I move some space away for Saka to exploit? So understanding when to do that is not always easy. It's not a completely exact science. I think that what's exciting, again, talking about new dimensions in a player with Ødegaard, is watching a player develop in front of your eyes. We're all seeing it. We're watching Tomiyasu do something we have not seen him do before, which tells you that the coaching is working, which tells you that the talent ID is working, because it shows you that they saw something that we couldn't see, or certainly I couldn't see, and went, right, okay, we can get him to that point by implementing these things on the training ground. And I said on our instant reaction that it's the first time that Ben White has been not necessarily. It's not that we've played without Ben White before. Against I think it was Man City at the Emirates last season. He's chosen not to use Ben White, but not for extended periods of time, and not seemingly without sort of really obvious tactical reasons. This is the third game in a row Tomiyasu started. It sounds like he wants to start him against Luton. I'm not casting any judgments early, and I'm not saying that I want to sell Ben White, but I'm saying that it's interesting to me that for the first time in Ben White's Arsenal career, there's some real competition. You could argue it's a fitness thing, but I think basically unless Ben White has one leg, he's playing most of the time, or he has certainly the last 3 years. And one, it's exciting that we have a different option in Tomiyasu, but two, it's interesting that Arteta, I think for the first time really over a run of games, has been willing to sit Ben White down. I he's playing 45 minutes, so he's clearly fit enough to play some part. And usually Ben White has been just forced on to play. So yeah, something to look at there.
Yeah, I feel like with Tomiyasu, it's not just a matter of he's got the ability, he's got confidence now in his body. So it's how before he'd get into the position, but he wouldn't demand the ball because he was scared that if he received the ball, he might make a mistake. Now he's in those areas of those pockets of the pitch in that final third, and he's actually demanding the ball to make things happen. And I think he's now got 4 goal contributions this season, 3 in his last 2 games. This is a player that's growing in confidence, and hopefully that injury isn't serious. Mikel talked about it not being a serious injury and it being more of a, him, trying to save him for now. But right now, I do believe that Tomiyasu is a starter over Ben White because as great as Ben White is as a player, Tomiyasu is offering Arsenal more going forwards, which I never thought I'd ever say. Because at times in this game, I think if you notice, he was actually playing, he was moving everywhere. Like he'd be in up down the middle at times. So he's almost Mikel's surprise weapon going forwards because he realises that the players marking him is a winger. And most wingers don't want to track back into their box anyways. So if you just run all over the pitch, he's not going to track you and you're going to have a man available. So it's clever. And I felt what Mikel's doing now is he's finding different ways to impact the final third outside of our attackers. So you can see Rice entering the final third. You can see Tomiyasu, even Zinchenko getting assist in this game, entering that final third. It's about surprising the opposition now because they realise that, we've already got our attackers.
Yeah, I think surprise is the right word. And I think, maybe at the beginning of the season it was a little bit stale. The one thing I would say is I don't think we've seen Tomiyasu really up against a properly resolute defence yet.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him, still open up, a Man City or something in that role. But look, it's exciting that is a real option developing there, and it's not just basically if Ben White can't play, Tomiyasu will go there. That feels like a real option.
Yeah, it's about being decisive, and I think Tomiyasu's passing is very crisp right now. He sees a pass, he does it straight away, and that pass against Lens over the top was spectacular. I want to talk about though another player,
intentional or not.
I would say it's intentional. You give him the benefit of the doubt. Declan Rice is a very good player. I think he's a bit decent.
Let's calm down. Let's calm down.
But Declan Rice is a player who is in fantastic form, and Arsenal fans are in love with him. I want to compare him though to his arch nemesis. Let's just say not on the field, just in terms of us fans comparing the players. Declan Rice versus Rodri. Rodri's recent form has been still very good, by the way, but he's picked up a few yellow cards. Rumours next year there might be sin bins. Orange cards, if there's a foul that is blatant, a 10-minute off, maybe that affects Rodri's stocks, but it feels like Rodri's now starting to get a bit of a name for yellow cards. And initially people forgot about it.
Now?
But since that, no, because what it was before he'd get yellow cards, no one would mention it. But since that red card against Forest, where he got sent off for was it headbutt or strangle, it feels like now fans are more wary of it. They're going, hang on a minute, this guy's a bit of like a Xhaka reputation right now building.
Yep.
Rice is yet to receive a single yellow card in the league this season. I'm not saying that's the reason why he's better than Rodri, but looking at his defensive work, right?
No, that is what you're saying.
Do you think right now Declan Rice is performing to a higher standard than Rodri, which is crazy because they're both very good players?
You're going to get me clipped. Look, I think. Here's what I think. Here's a politician's answer for you. Here's a politician's answer. Look, we all have different strengths, and look, I think in this Arsenal team, Rice is better for what we need. And I think for what City need, Rodri is better. Now, if you look at the results of the two teams over the last few games, and you look at the performances over the last few games in terms of form, I think like in the last 3 games, probably Rice has slightly edged Rodri. But I think overall, who would I rather have? Probably for sample size, I'd probably just take Rodri. But the exciting part is, I thought it was going to take Rice a couple of seasons to get to that level. I didn't think it would take him till December. So I think we're looking at a player who we all knew his defensive capacity. We all knew about the anticipation. We all knew that he can spot a pass about 10 seconds before everyone else on the pitch. This supernatural behavior. What we didn't know was about his switches, was about his through balls, was about his reverse passes, was about his breaking the lines, was about the contribution he can have in the final third. And by the way, and that's more second phase. I think in the final third, he had a few shots from the edge of the box against Wolves. I think we are still waiting to see another level to Rice's game where he can contribute by arriving late, by shooting from the edge of the box, by being more involved from set pieces. I think we've got so much to do. So it's so exciting because Rice is, I think the last 3 games has been bit better than Rodri in terms of form, and maybe, you know, City fans might watch this and say you're celebrating nothing really. It's just a couple of games, but actually that's exciting because to me, I thought he was permanently going to be there because Rodri hits that level so well. So yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, Enzo Fernandez literally said, "I learn off Declan Rice," and there's still people who are kind of saying he's not in that category, and I think it's ridiculous. I think what's exciting is how quickly he's got there in my mind. Certainly,
I would not swap Declan Rice for Rodri. I wouldn't.
Not for this Arsenal team. No,
that's the thing I'm going to say. You're perfectly right there because of his defensive work rate, that ability to close distances, the clean tackles. They're almost satisfying as goals at times because he's one of the only players in the league that can do that consistently. He's a very, very springy player, and that power is something that Rodri's not blessed with. Very good, very smart player, Rodri. Very good player on the ball. But I think that thing that Rice has that Rodri doesn't have is why I edge Rice over Rodri in terms of this Arsenal team, because he's got that defensive ability that Rodri just can't. He can't develop power, can he? Right? And on the ball ability, Rice is growing to the standard where that will eventually get to a closer gap than Rice's defensive work rate or Rodri's defensive work rate. So it's a nice debate to have. But Arsenal are on the market for a new midfielder. There has been a surprise link, Alex. João Paulini. Talk to me. Is he a player that you think Arsenal should be signing?
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To hear the full episode, sign up as a YouTube member on this channel or go to patreon.com/thecannonpod.